I'm so grateful to the organizing committee to invite me, and I just came back from Kyoto University last week. And what will I talk about? During my stay in Kyoto University, I attended a symposium on the wood culture by the Chinese, Korean, and Japanese sectors. They talk about the kind of printing board in Korea, and before that, in China. I also had the contact with a printing board museum in Yangzhou. We had some partnership. I would provide my own opinions for them. So I will talk about this topic. I'd like to thank International Wood Culture Association for inviting me. And I want to share this information with you that next October, the next symposium will be held in Nanjing Forestry University. Welcome everyone to attend that symposium. And also, International Mountain Autonomy Association. Peter Bass is also here. 4 years ago, we determined on that. And October the 18th next year, we'll hold the symposium. You are more than welcome to attend the next symposium. In the university, I focus on the research on the wood science, especially on the functions and structures assessment, and also for different categories. So I'm so fond of the wood. I think that the wood is so good. As you mentioned, the wood culture. And from the historical cultural perspective, we also talk about the wood era. I also have the same opinion because for the people, we developed from the apes, from the trees, and maybe we should not talk about whether we do have the wood era or not. Anyway, during the development of the mankind, it's in company with the wood development. We need the wood during our development. And after we came down from the tree, we need wood for accommodation, etc. Even after our death, we also need the coffins, the wooden coffins. So wood accompanied our development. As for the wood culture, as I discussed with some archaeological experts, so they have a lot of wood, and a lot of wood can be well preserved for long. And maybe you don't know this if you are not in this trade. Some of the wood can be preserved for even hundreds or more than 10,000 years. And you can interpret and explain our ancestors' traces on the wood.
And also the history and culture evolution can be reflected with the variety of application of wood. You can see the change of climate, change of the geography as well. So the study, I find certain questions arising from it. For instance, in Huaibei, between Huaibei and the Yellow River, and even to Beijing, we have a lot of the wood. Because of the application of this area, a lot of use of the particular kind of the Nanmu. And for this one, we see it's been there for thousands of years. But we don't know what's the reason behind it, because this place not the place for the production of this wood. To be fair, personally, this wood may 3,000, 4,000 years old, while the elephant was still roaming along the Yellow River, and the temperature was much warmer, so we can see the place for this particular kind of wood. So this is we can see the different application of the wood. And also, personally, I believe for this wood, for this Nanmu in particular, and they have different areas and different species, different countries. We have the science for timber. For different trees, for different materials, they have different characteristics and applications. For instance, some can be for buildings, others can be for pharmaceuticals, others for maybe for other areas, etc., etc. So for timber, for wood, I am really obsessed with the study of this area. The topic of my presentation, due to time limit, is the certification verification method for ancient engraving printing wood. You know, China is famous worldwide for its printing technology. It's one of the 4 inventions of China. So during the printing, the engraving printing, is closely related to wood, because we have the different printings, we have the engraving, and also before the engraving, we have the seals. We have the seals, and now have the engravings. Then we have the moving printing characters. So this is the evolution of the Chinese invention. So as one of 4 inventions, which is also the contribution of China to the world civilization, we want to make a further study of those ancient engraving printing wood to you. This is the topic of my presentation. Still, as I mentioned, printing is one of the contributions of China to the whole world. It can date back to 1100 years back in Song Dynasty. So for engraving, can be dating back to 1500 years during the Sui and Tang dynasties. During this period, for China, we still have certain application of engraving printing methodologies in China. In Yangzhou is a place famous for, because Yangzhou is the original cradle for engraving and also the concentration area for the craftsmen in China. We still see certain craftsmen, masters. The Guanglin Academy still have certain experts and craftsmen for the older style books printing. They are big. The characters are big in size, which are good for the senior citizen. This is the engraving methodologies. And there is a museum of engraving in Yangzhou. This is the only one in China to have all the methodologies. In 2006, it was listed as the first batch of intangible assets. In 2009, it was awarded by UNESCO as the intangible asset representatives catalog for Yangzhou engraving. It in Hangzhou, in Beijing, and in Fujian, they are the 4 most representative engraving bases in China. Yangzhou Engraving Printing Museum was established back in 2003 with the approval of the council. At that time, you can see the autograph of the then President Jiang Zemin. That is, they claim over over 1/3 of a million engraving pieces, the biggest in size in the world. During the study, our experts from Korea, they amazed at this exhibition. And for South Korea, they have the exhibition of 80,000. They believe they are the first, but in China we have 300,000. Now, this is the school of engraving printing in Yangzhou still. we have certain craftsmen and masters there for the Chinese binding methodologies. The acme of the engraving was in Qing Dynasty. That's the acme in the pinnacle period. Yangzhou, after the founding of New China, we have certain craftsmen involved in this industry. Those craftsmen get together in 1958 to be involved in the remedial work and with the printing of certain editions. So they call it a Guangling engraving academy. So with the books in print, the Yangzhou Museum have talk about the protection of the ancient engraving works. So during the protection, because these are cultural relics, by doing so, they can continue to print in this Chinese style binding with the engraving methods. They met with certain questions, so they turn to us for technical help. And they have certain questions, for example, cracking, because for the engraving, for the binding books, Chinese binding books, they have certain graphs. Sometimes during the drying, there's a cracking issues due to the change each and every year. And also they have the erosion. So in normal use, they have used every day, yearly. There will be no worms, but if you leave there unattended, there will be the erosion of the worms. So that's a worms issue. So there are certain additions suffering from the worms. That's the second reason. The first is the cracking. So they turn to us for help for better preservation methodologies. We provide certain suggestions and methods. This engraving methodology for selection of materials, how to choose the best wood for engraving. Each and every character should be carved. So for the characters, you know how to make the carved. They should be the fine, tight wood. So easy to engrave. It should be tight in texture. Should not be soft ones. So should be the colifers. We should have the good selection, and also they should be abundant in supply. Of course, for different products and for different ones. Just now people are talking about the popular, but popular is rare in existence and accessibility. So we have to choose other alternatives. So the preparation, the selection, preparation of raw materials. That's first one. Second one is the prototyping for the Chinese binding books. You know, these are written by people. They write it on a certain particular fine thin paper. After writing, we have the proofreading. Then we glue it to the additions. Then the grave craftsmen, they will leave the characters there with a certain millimeters deep. We call the Yangzhou style engraving. Then with this one, we use the coating and the printing. So these are the 4 steps for Chinese binding books processing. These are the 4 different steps. For the verification analysis of the engraving printing materials, because it's a cultural relics, we have the found from the state, and also we have certain samples, numbering 9 or 10. We have the numbers of the cultural relics, and they are made in China, and certain others come from Japan. With the years and the names attached to it. For instance, this is B110-66. This is the Zhou's family medical volumes. And volume 18, there's issue of cracking. And for the bottom one, there's another one. You can see the cracking here. These are engravings. We can make further printing after the remedial work. This is the Chunzai Tangquan. This is a complete set of the spring ones, etc., etc. This is the annual picture. This is Chinese annual cartoons that are famous worldwide. You can see different holes of the worms because of the erosion of the worms. So the worms, they have the worms issue. The material, the wood, sometimes we cannot use it anymore because it will dismantled immediately. For the bottom, for the up one, is suffer severely from the erosion of worms. You can see a lot of wood. They have the engravings on both sides of the wood. Another one is called they have certain graphs, certain pictures. People of my age knows the Chinese cartoon serials in countryside. They have the engravings. They have certain designs on the back of the engraved wood. This is a certain Taixinghao, maybe certain enterprise. That's their packaging material. For the different wood, what kind of wood should be used? So from the material perspective, you can see the sections. They have the different fines. In order to prevent the cracking and deformation, they will have some certain criteria for selection of the wood. For China, in China and Japan, with the difference between Chinese and Korean and the Japanese ones, because we have to take a look at the study of the wood first. In China, the pear tree from Yangzhou, or rose tree from Yangzhou, the history, you can see the most popular one is the pear tree. But in Fujian, in south part of China, they use a lot of camphor trees, not kind of camphor family trees. So here we can see the difference of selection among different parts of China for the selection of wood for engraving. For young, we made certain studies, and we have better understanding of the pear tree application there in Yangzhou. This is a pear tree. Pear tree here you can see certain data. For the diameter, it is only 40 to 60 micrometer. 40 to 60 cannot be seen with the naked eyes. Very fine holes, and this is similar to the poplar, as we mentioned earlier. This is another style. So for pear, trees are widely dispersed in China, from northeast part of China to Guangxi and Fujian, to Qinghai, Xinjiang, Tibet, Sichuan, and to Taiwan, and Fujian, Jiangsu, Zhejiang province. We can find the pear trees all over China. You can see different.
And in this category, we can see many such kind of presents. We have a lot of such kind of unimus. As you know, in China, they will call it kind of a water box tree to replace box trees. Sometimes quite fine. And the caliber, the tree caliber is also similar to that of the box trees. So we might also use it for resin, etc. And also kind of sandalwood. Several tree. We have different categories, and besides this careful wood, the caliber or the texture is somewhat larger. In Fujian area, it came from Fujian area. In line with its historical record, it is quite correspondent to the historical record, and we have the pear tree, and second pear tree, third and the fifth one, the Weimao. If we look at Chenzaitang and etc., we can see that it has some issues. For this one, there's a kind of a wind spindle tree. It has some worm bites in it, including the pear tree. On the upper left, you can see that the texture is quite fine, and usually it will not have the worm bites. But during the preservation, the worms might come, or the vermin might come. So it's quite challenging for the preservation. Those are the different categories. We listed 7. And in Japan, for the first 2, they were also preserved in Yangzhou Museum, and they came from the Tokyo. So it has those kind of descriptions. For this pear tree, we have different categories. So pear tree is popular in Korea, but maybe not popular in Japan. In Japan, they will use the cherry tree. As you can see, the caliber of the tree is 100 millimeters, larger than that of the pear tree. However, as you know, for the pear tree and also the cherry tree, it is good to fight against the vermin. So its performance is relatively good. But maybe during the engraving, for example, if you engrave it into a seal, its preservation might become a problem. For example, the vermin issue. And come next, let's talk about this one from Korea. It is also the preservative site from the UNESCO. It is this kind of a printing board. And in the temples, it is stored the printing boards, over 81,000 pieces. And they have more categories. For example, the boards are quite large in size. For example, 69 centimeters, the length. Maybe have more than 40 centimeters. For the tree categories, quite a diversified treatments, widely applied. And also, they used pear trees. Let's see. And for the previous 3 types, they are quite fine in texture, quite suitable for the engraving or printing for petula. Not that fine. Halos, similar to the camphor continuous. We call it nanmu in Chinese. Also fine in terms of the text, the fineness. Another nanmu, salix, and also pine. They are not quietly applied. all over 1,000 categories that have been identified, or maybe over hundreds of types, and pine is not quite widely applied. For majority of them, they use those kind of trees with a fine texture. If we look at the categories of the wood, we think that we're quite different from the other nations. We mainly use pear trees, while in Japan and Korea, they used the cherry tree. This is a big difference. And during the preservation of the printing board, as I've mentioned, how we can fight against the vermin, like the low temperature, or in this semi-exclusive space, how we can do the preservation, because they have more than thousands and thousands of the printing boards, and they are not widely used. They are many for the purpose of preservation. Maybe we can offer some help to them. So we also have the other types. For Japan and Korea, they mainly used the cherry trees for the printing boards, like how we can restore and repair them. We can also offer some help to our Japanese and Korean counterparts. So for the interest of time, that's my part. In Europe and America, there are also a lot of printing boards, and I don't know a lot about the development of printing boards in Europe and America. For the preservation, maybe you can have more interaction in the future. So this will be our future orientation, so that we can reflect the value of such kind of symposium.